Hi, everyone. From me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. Good to have you on the show. I'm joined by a very special guest tonight. I must tell you, Nadine de Klerk, Gavin the Oracle Cohen. I know the meaning of that, but quickly explain it to the people who may not have watched what took place about an hour ago.
Oh, this is Brent. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm so excited. I don't know how to explain this. I watched Murray's on Cup and open. Oh, she's not an opener, but I watched the opener as well. And I thought to myself, you are playing games. You got to hit this ball, hit it. And then we're sitting with like 60 or 40, and this de Klerk chick comes in, and I still said to my family, is that Faf's niece, cousin? I don't know. But that girl absolutely pummeled it. I know she had 2 sixes in the last over, and that's great. But up until then, she got us there. And you might not believe this, Brent, but South Africa went 16-1. I know on the exchanges they probably went 50 or 100-1. But for the normal punter, 16-1 is probably what you would have got. And when I saw 16-1, I thought, I'm going to have a nibble here. And for those Mark Dunphys and Shanes and whoever out there, I just put 25 Rand on. So that's, I don't know, like a euro 50. That's all I put on. And I'm happy. I was a winner. It was beautiful.
Excellent.
Sorry, hold on, Rick. Hold on. You just put a New Zealand on there. We beat you Oaks in the last game. We're talking South African women's rugby, cricket, yeah.
I was going to say,
all right. Shall I come back later?
Have you heard of cricket in New Zealand? We beat you anyway. It doesn't matter if you heard of it or not.
In the what? Sorry, the women's cricket. Did you?
Yeah, it's the women's cricket. I don't think I'd be surprised if Nathan was watching. No, South Africa. Nathan just had a brilliant win tonight over India, and
we just beat India for the first time ever. Yes.
And if I show you,
yes.
Oracle's actually called himself over the lady who had certainly one of the best innings I've seen in women's cricket. I haven't watched a lot, to be honest, but it was very impressive. But we'll chat maybe a bit of cricket at the end of the show there, Gav. Let's get on to the rugby. First of all, welcome to the Mossman. Mossman, first up, well done last week. Your New Zealand team got the job done there against Australia. It was a pretty good game to watch. I must admit, I really enjoyed it. But you guys must have been happy with the outcome there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll take it. It was a decent game. So yeah, it was all right.
Excellent. And Gab, we're gonna actually start off with a little bit of NPC, but I'll leave you on there just to reflect on the South African cricket. You could say we've only got 4 games to talk about. Yes.
I just want to say, Nathan put me on to North Harbour, I think it was, +6. By the time I got on, they were +2, and they lost by 6. So thank you, but I missed. That's my fault, not yours.
Nathan, it's I also got on Harbour there as well. It's one of those things where the market definitely, the money was there for it, no doubt about it, eh?
They listened to you, Nathan, and they moved it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, any one-off game, right? Like, it's the
smallest
sample.
Game like, though? Did they have a chance? Could they have won? I mean, how close was this?
I didn't actually end up watching that particular one. I watched some of the others. It was actually like a good weekend in NPC, but the one that I actually called out the most was the one that we actually ended up losing. So, but that's gambling for you.
Bottom line, Nathan, if you place 100 bets early, like and you call 100 like that, and they move in your favor like that, you're going to make money in the long run. You are going to get the odd one. You're going to get the odd one that goes better. I remember being on the Lions once, -10. They started -17. They won by 9. So I lost my bet. But at the end of the day, if you're putting something out there and the market moves in your direction, you can almost, if I could say, as someone is sharing advice, you can do no more. You know what I mean? It's like kind of, obviously, you want the bet to win and all that. But ultimately, if you're doing that on a regular basis, you're going to make money in this game. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, closing line value is one of the biggest indicators of potential success, so yeah, you're right. Like there's certain bets where you kind of think to yourself you got it wrong, but a lot of the time, if the market moves in your direction, you kind of say, look, you've done all that you can do,
Yes.
and the rest of it is just up to chance.
Yeah, you called it early, and the reality is anyone who gets on the early line has an option. If they get nervous before the game, they can actually close out, or they can hedge, or whatever. So Shane coming in, evening Musketeers. Let's get in. I see Oracle has popped off. I don't know if that's a Wi-Fi issue or what, but let's get into the rugby before he gets back. We got the quarterfinals this weekend, Nathan. Let's start with the NPC. I see Oracle is back. Otago -7.5 against Waikato, and we've got a points line of 54.5. So this game, obviously, tomorrow morning South African time.
Yeah, I don't have a strong fancy in this game. This one's bounced around a little bit too, because I think it opened at 6.5. I've seen 8.5, and then it's come obviously back to 7.5. And there's some reasons for that. There's 3 All Blacks that have been released that are playing for Waikato. So I think that's the reason for some of that movement. And then on the other hand is that backing Otago has been really profitable, because they've outperformed expectations massively this year. And in fact, Otago last week was one of the the easiest covers that you could ask for. Opened 2.5, and they ended up winning by 40 or something like that. Oracle will be impressed. I went to that game as well. That was Auckland Otago, and instead of playing it at Eden Park, which is the big empty 50,000 seat stadium, they played it at Auckland Grammar School, which is one of the local sort of colleges, high schools. Just small ground, a ground that people would normally be watching at the First 15 rugby on. I don't know how many people were there, maybe a couple of thousand or whatever it was, but yeah, it was a good atmosphere.
Oracle,
first question I got, Mossman, is when you got into the stadium and I don't know, did it feel full, or was it?
I wouldn't even call it a stadium. It's a school ground that has a terrace around the outside and a hill at one end, So, but they turned it into a family day. They had bouncy castles and all this kind of stuff going on at one end, and yeah, it was actually like they tried to turn it into a bit of a family day out. And I took my 4-year-old along to it, and he loved it.
Yeah, it's the way to do it for those competitions.
Yeah, I agree.
South Africa started doing that as well in some of our Curry Cup games and stuff. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So I digress a little bit, but yeah, so that's the reason why things have bounced around a little bit. Personally, I'm right on this number here, and I can easily see both sides. I think there's like a case to be made that it's a quarterfinal. They're generally pretty tight, and I could see the plus, especially at 8.5. I'd probably like that plus. But the flip side is that Otago have just been really good, and Waikato, to be fair, have not been great. Even when they've had these All Blacks back, they haven't been great. Like they lost the shield with, I think, the guys that they're rolling out from the ABs this week. So this is one that I will most likely be not getting involved in.
Quick comment on the points there, just for Dan, who's coming in on X there. He says maybe under 54.5. Any feeling, or is it pretty much on the number for you as well?
No, I make this an overs game, and it sounds something obvious, but obviously it's under the roof. I don't try to make too much of that, because of course, like everybody knows, it's under the roof, so that will be factored into the line. But the thing that would keep me off the over would be just the fact that these quarterfinal games are usually a bit closer than what you think.
Yeah, and I often find in quarterfinals and semifinals and that, even if the ultimate gap is not that close, the team that gets ahead often starts playing defensively at some point. There's no incentive to go out there and beat the team by sort of 30, 40 points. They get their 2 scores ahead, and then they often go into defensive mode. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit nervous. As you say, I think the line pretty close to right there. The next semi-final, we've got Bay of Plenty here, -7.5 against Tasman. I don't have a points line for this game. I think that'll only be out tomorrow.
Yeah, I could dig up a points line if you're interested, but this one, okay, we talked about it earlier, right? Like getting on early numbers, making those kind of bets. Like this was a classic example. This one opened at 2.5. And in my mind, that was just off. And you can see the movement here. And in fairness, all that's really changed is that there's the prop Tosi has been released by the ABs. He's starting for the Bay, but I think, and it's possibly people may have thought that Finlay Christie or someone else may have been starting for Tasman. So, but I think this is less of a personnel question than just the fact that Tasman have just been bad and they don't have a good forward pack. And Bay of Plenty are just Bay of Plenty. I mentioned them a lot. I think when I've come on here and talked about them, they're just a really buttoned up team. They just do everything well. They're not a team of superstars, but they are what I would call a star team. Yeah, I think they're well coached, well drilled, do everything well. I'm not sure that Tasman will actually live with them here, and especially if things don't go well early for Tasman. Tasman went to the Bay earlier in the season when they were kind of full strength and got a bit of a caning, and it wouldn't surprise me if that happened again here.
Right, we'll go on to the next game. I'm not going to bring him in yet but I'm a bit worried. I'm hoping Gavin's on the straight Coke there. I see lots of Coke going down the gullet, but I'm just wondering if there's anything else in that in that as well. But Hawke's Bay then, Mossman -2.5 against Taranaki.
Yeah, I think this is basically a coin flip, which obviously suggests that the value is on the plus. And I think it definitely would have been on the plus at 3.5, which is where it was at one point earlier in the week. Wasn't able to get that 3.5. When the teams came out, I think it was all fairly predictable. The thing that I didn't like, and there's certain players which I think are kind of quite talismanic for their teams, and Callum Bashir, who plays 8 for Taranaki, is a really good player. When I saw he wasn't there, that made me a little bit nervous about getting too involved for Taranaki. I see that Furry talking about a wrong favourite. As I said, I think it's a coin flip. I think it's it goes right down to the wire. I just don't like the fact that Bashir is not there. Try not to get overly emotional about any one particular player, but if in the coin flip, I would obviously take the plus. But it's one of these games where I think that extra point from 2.5 to 3.5 could actually be really important, because I remember the final between Taranaki and Hawke's Bay, not last year but the year before, and the difference between winning and losing was that difference between the 3.5 and the 2.5. I think from memory it came down to a 2 or a 3 point win. So yeah, I think it's kind of a key number in a game which I expect to be as tight as this.
Well, I've got to work on, of course, some of the newsletter bets and that. And while you were talking, I was quickly looking at Bet Exchange. They've got 1.4 to 1 or 14 to 10. Either team by 7 or less in this game. That's a bit tempting, I'd say. Eh?
I think so. Yeah. Especially
it's always difficult to figure out if the price is a good price or not. But just from a perspective of, I think this could be really a close one. I mean, maybe if it's a coin flip, I suppose. Yeah, it must have a decent shot. Eh?
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm going to throw that into an accumulator, and then we got Canterbury -14.5 against. No, it can't be Taranaki. Who's it? Counties. I've got that wrong. Sorry when I typed that out. But that's obviously against Counties and -14.5. Yeah.
Another one with some early movement. I think in New Zealand at least it opened at 10.5. 12.5 was kind of available. That's where I got involved. This, I don't feel great about backing against Counties, just because again they've been a good team that have overperformed. But this is just one of these spots. I think that they have overperformed, but maybe things will catch up with them at some point. And it can go kind of two ways. I think in a playoff game, at the quarterfinal stage at least, anyway, is that if you kind of get down, maybe you're thinking about the beach, and then maybe the oppositions are thinking about next week. So, but yeah, I would still think that Canterbury's the right side here. Even despite Counties overperforming.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of the NPC. Just want to bring up Shane's comment from earlier. Can he appear live on next week's show to talk about how he lost 20,000 rand in South African women's batting collapse against England? And Gavin gives you the thumbs up. And Gav, we'll bring you in now because we're going to get onto the URC. I mean, just quickly, just to digress on the cricket, and I know I'm going to regret this probably, but I mean, that first game against England I didn't watch it, but I mean, people were saying, send the girls home. That was absolutely hopeless. And to come back and beat New Zealand and India is incredible. But Shane clearly is not going to have good memories of that game. Are you on mute, Gav?
Sorry, I was on mute there. I punted the first game. Lost $100. So in Mossman's language, $10, whatever. It was a small amount of money.
19,900 less than Shane.
Yeah. Didn't.
Excellent. Let's move on. Let's move on to the action now in the rugby championship. I must be honest, I'm battling to get into this tournament. I always do in the early stages. Fortunately, the Bulls overs have been good to me both weeks, but last week, just in general for me, wasn't a great betting weekend. So looking forward to seeing what you gents say. Let's start with Oracle on this one. Oracle, we got the Stormers away from home against the Scarlets, and handicap here, Scarlets plus 4.5 on the cap here.
There's a digit missing, Brent. The Stormers have won this game comfortably. 10, 15, 20 points. I'm a minus Stormers punter by a long way. Not even close. This is race over, and might as well put the result in and pay the punters. Stormers minus all the way. 4.5 is not enough. It's a long way.
I hope that's not the Coca-Cola talking. But let's go to Mossman now. But Mossman, interesting this because I've seen quite a few punters. I think I saw the Admiral on the Stormers. I saw someone on the Good for the Game forum said, I think it was actually Jamison, who is from Wales, saying the Stormers pack should be too strong. But the Scarlets are a team. I know you've got a bit of when I say a soft spot, you tend to do very well on the Scarlets. What is your numbers sort of telling you on this game? Because my initial instinct, I got this handicap totally wrong. I actually thought the Scarlets might start favourites for this game.
Yeah, so you're right. Like the Scarlets is a team that traditionally, or at least over the last year or so, have been good to back. They've covered a lot. The problem I think they've got here is that they're carrying a lot of injuries, from what I understand. I haven't had a close look at the team, but I know that they were kind of injured coming into last week. Saying Stormers line has moved to 7.5. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I suppose I haven't looked at prices this morning, so I tend to agree that the Stormers are certainly the right side at 4.5. So I just need to see where the market is at, because I make the line 6 in this game, so that would be on right in the middle of depending where things have actually settled. So it's something we need to have a go and have a look at.
Yeah, and local punters can still get. I'm just refreshed Bet Exchange's page. You can still get 4.5. I see PokerBet 5.5. So the line, what Farida's picked up there is that the line has moved to 7.5, which means it probably will get there everywhere eventually. But could be a bit of, if you do want to get on the Stormers, there's still a little bit of value potentially with those bookmakers. Right, let's move on to the second game on Friday night. Munster up against Edinburgh here, and Mossman will give you first crack at this one. I think it's been a fairly stable handicap. I must say I was disappointed last week that the Edinburgh game was postponed, because I was really starting to fancy them more and more as kickoff progressed at home. But 8.5 here, this handicap to me looks about right.
Yeah, very close to where I've got it as well. And Munster kind of they let me down last week because I expected a lot more of them, having seen what they'd done the previous week. And I don't know how much of that was Munster themselves or how much of it was Cardiff, who I just find Cardiff to be an incredibly erratic team. Like, they're capable of good performances and terrible performances. You're never quite sure which one you're going to get. So, I think I'm leaning Munster, but it's kind of with some caution, just because I'm not 100% sure which team they are, whether they're the team from 2 weeks ago or the one from last week. So I'll be thinking pretty heavily about this one. And 8.5 is not a number that I love, because I think Edinburgh are also, they're a decent team as well. So I think it would probably be a case of either shopping around and getting a better number than that, or possibly staying clear, because it's just a little bit too close to the line for me. I usually like to see. So I was going to say, I usually like to see at least a couple of points of sort of separation from where my number is to the market to get too involved, because I've sort of charted a lot of this stuff, and I can see that when it's around about a point, then you're kind of flipping coins to some extent. But I know that when I get a clear separation, that there's usually some signal in there rather than just noise.
Right, I'm just quickly skimming down. I know I've got some of mine quite well off this week, which is not uncommon for me in the early stages. But I think this game, this game I was pretty close. I actually went 8.5 on this game, so I was actually spot on here. So also not seeing a lot of value. Oracle, anything for you in this game? The games unfortunately are at the same time, so you can watch both, but you probably find you have to choose one of them. What do you think? What do you like in this game?
Nothing. No idea.
Nothing. I'm speechless.
Correct. I'm actually minus speechless. I have absolutely no idea. No, honestly, I mean,
that's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm picking my games, especially in the first few weeks of this tournament, and I got nothing. I mean, I loved it when Zebre won last week, and I obviously punted them. But honestly, I'm watching and learning, and that's it. You know what, Brent and Mossman, for that matter, it doesn't matter what anyone says to you. You want to punt every single game here, you go into the poorhouse, and there's a open door. They're open. It's free beers, all of that shit. They're waiting for you. Come in. Just stay away from that as much as you can. You don't want to go to the poorhouse, and you don't want to go there quickly. Pick the games you like. Pick the games you understand, and have a go. You can't. I don't know. You can't punt everything. It doesn't work.
And 100%. There's. I mean, you can, but I certainly wouldn't.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
But it's a bit different for like a guy like Mossman, if I could say, because you're not necessarily.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're working on a system. Yes, sometimes you'll let off certain things study, but for you, it's not. I mean, if you can strike at whatever 55 or 56% or whatever you need to strike at, the more games, the merrier, I guess, for you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think there are limits to these things, and you still, in a funny way, you if you get to somewhere between 55 and 60%, like you said, then the game becomes, can you eliminate the losers? And there are kind of ways to do that. And one of the ways is, you've probably heard me talking about, like, I know the teams that I'm consistently wrong on. And if you notice, just stay clear of certain teams. And it's funny because when I kind of have a table, and it will list all the teams and the ones that I'm sort of the most right and the most wrong about. And it's not distributed evenly. There's usually one team, maybe a couple, that are at the bottom that I'm just fully wrong on all the time. Like, so you might have a team at the top that's
turn those up.
Yeah, like you just have to recognize where you're wrong, and just like in poker or other types of gambling, they'd call it a leak, right? You've got a leak somewhere. Know where your leaks are and stay away from them.
Mine's poker, unfortunately.
Poker is your leak, right?
Actually, we got our big year-end tournament coming up, so I've actually taken a break for a few months because I just felt I had to step back. We got quite a big monthly game we play. I mean, I thoroughly love the game, but I go through stages with poker where I really feel like, I'm playing well. And sometimes when you play well, you can lose at poker type of thing, but you feel you really, and then sometimes I walk out of there and go, what the hell you were doing? Because I'm not the most patient guy in the world, So it would be great one day if we could all have a poker game. But let's move on to Saturday's matches now. Oracle, I'll quickly pop down to you. Benetton minus 9.5 against Lions. I'm guessing this game you will be watching.
Yeah, so I watched this game last week. Excuse me. Zebre getting up first, scoring the first try. Bit of a tussle. It was a nice game, and obviously this was a level game. This was a pick 'em, whatever you want to call them. I know it wasn't exactly, but the prices suggested it was as much. There was +1, +2, -1, -2. It was a level game. I backed Zebre, and they score first, and there was 5-3, and then they had that disallowed try. I watched the whole game. I'm going to tell you, never mind what happened last week. Lions don't win this game either. So for those people out there, and I'm going to include Heinrich, if he's watching. I don't know if he's watching. I haven't seen him in the comments yet. But, yeah, he's been on my case. And I'll have a beer with Oak many times, and I'll shake his hand, and we met outside of the show. He called me like, for lack of a better word, a Lions bias supporter. And he's right. I am biased towards the Lions. And on this note, I'm interested to know what Mossman's team is. So you're not punting. Who's your team? And Brent, I know you're a Bull supporter, but are you really a Bull supporter when there's no money down? I don't know. I'm asking anyway. We can have this conversation.
I'll answer first before Mossman answers. I used to be a heavy
Let me carry on.
Oh, you're not finished the question. Okay.
No, I'm not. Well, I finished my questions, but I'm not finished my statement.
You're answering the question you asked us. You've told me I'm a Bull supporter.
That was my...
he's arguing with himself.
I noticed that. I don't know. It was an acknowledgement. Anything other than that, I don't know. I'm going to say I'm on the plus on the Lions here, but I don't believe the Lions will win this game. So if you're watching me, and you know I'm a Lions supporter, which I am. I'm not going to digress from that. But I think there's a little bit of value here. Punt the Lions on the plus, but don't take them to win the game, because I think they get close. In fact, it's a 50-50. They get within 8 or low this game. But I'm a Lions punter here at 9.5. I think it's too much. A little too much. 2 or 3 points too much. They probably lose by 6 or 5, but they don't win the game.
So just from a betting angle, that would lean you towards something like a 1-12 Benetton or something like that. Lions can beat the cap, but still lose the match. Punters were looking for different options. But let's go up to Mossman. I think we'll answer the question.
Hold on, Brent. That's a good question. So you're saying, do I take 18-10 to win the game? Or do I take 9-10, the plus? Or do I take 14-10, maybe 15-10, 1-12? I'm going to say the 9-10 is the value. Because you must remember this, if they win the 9-10, if they win the game, they win the 9-10. They lose, if they draw, they win the 9-10. Sorry, US the punter win the 9-10. They lose by 1, 2, 3, 4. They win the 9-10. So you're getting 9 points plus anything they win by. The 1-12, which you're probably getting at 18-10. If you're lucky, 2-1. And again, depending on the bookmaker you go for here, you win that 2-1 bet, you're in trouble. Your account is limited next week. So be careful how much you win.
Yeah, I think mathematically you're 100% correct as well. For me, it's just an interest bet. But let's move on from let's get Mossman involved now. I've got Shane's also got a question there for Mossman about team rankings. Before Mossman, I'll bring you in just to mention I'm not actually a Bull supporter. Loftus is my favorite ground to bet on because it's generally speaking an overs paradise. And on the URC, the bookies often come out in the mid 50s. But yeah, I used to be a heavy Stormer supporter. First of all, Mossman, do you support anyone? And then if you could have a look at Shane's question there. We'll come back to you, Oracle.
In Super Rugby, yeah.
No. Before Mossman says anything, I've been to Loftus, right? Bull's place. Bull's home ground. With Brent over there. He had his son wear a Bull shirt. So before he tells you he's not a Bull supporter, he went to Loftus with a Bull shirt and his kid. Carry on, Mossman.
Okay, Oracle, we're going to give Mossman a chance. My kid he's a Bull supporter, but I just happen to have the shirt. I'm also wearing a Leinster shirt. So Mossman, you come in now, and if Oracle speaks, I'm going to mute him.
No, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty. Yeah.
Chiefs and bad plenty. And just quick, Shane's question there. He says, do you keep a team table ranking for international rugby as well? And do you fare better in international domestic?
Yeah, so I think there's two different parts to this, because the ranking that I was talking about was within competition, and what it is, there'd basically be two parts to it. Would be, and there'd be, I can see it, it's in front of me now. So there'd be a column that says it has every team in whatever the competition or league is, and it'll say this is, and these aren't bets, these are predictions, and it'll say that this is how often I would have been right if I'd been backing that team, if I'd been fading that team, and when I've been right, where I've been wrong, and then like kind of adding those numbers together, and then having an overall number like on the season, and then in the last kind of 5 games. And quite often what and I'm looking at this now, so I've got a table for URC, and at the top is Zebre, which is saying it's +9, which means that I was right on Zebre 9 more times than I was wrong in aggregate, like if you added those two numbers together. And then right at the bottom is Cardiff at -9. And in general, like at the top is sort of like 9, 8, 6, 6, and then it goes at the bottom. It's Cardiff on 9, which is kind of on an island, because the next one is Munster at -4. So basically, what it's saying is that Zebre was I got a good read on Zebre. You know, when I predictions on Zebre were generally pretty good. Predictions on Cardiff were generally really bad, and so I've got like a big red color through Cardiff that just like I'm very cautious about betting against Cardiff. But it's not to say that that won't change, because we know what I'll look at over time is that, like, does that number change, especially like in the last 5 games. You know, if that gets back to kind of -1 or 0, then at that point I'll kind of go, you know, all right, there's probably no bias against them here. The problem I've got with Cardiff is that I've got red numbers on both sides, so I'm losing when I'm against them and on them. So
yes,
I just don't. Yeah, and it might just be random noise, because those things do happen, right? It's not about, you know, how I've rated Cardiff. It's just either Cardiff have just been a random team, or it's just, you know, pure chance. So that's the first part where you was talking about team rankings. And then, do I do that for international? Yes, because that's one of the competitions that I do. And that's a slightly different question for what he asked, which is, do I do better in domestic or international? And the truth is that it's hard to say categorically, because it varies from season to season. So like my international model is probably as good as my Super Rugby model, not quite as good as the NPC one, but it depends on different seasons. So there are seasons where some of these things might actually be, you know, close to break even. And then I've had others where some of them were winning at like 70%. So, you know, you've got quite a wide range. And the thing is, with rugby in any season, like most of these competitions are somewhere between sort of 80 and maybe, you know, 150 games in that range. Yes. Internationals are obviously a lot less. That's very different from betting NBA basketball or Major League Baseball, where there are, you know, like 1,000 game sample in a season or something like that. You know, like it's very consistent. So then you sort of looking at, well, where do I draw the line, right? Like one season's a small sample. Do I look at 2, 3, 4, 5? Like, you know, and those numbers will fluctuate, but then kind of stabilize, you know, somewhere in the middle. So it's not actually an easy question to answer, but I think in general, I'd say, and I've mentioned this before, that it surprised me that the international stuff was as good as it was, because in most markets, the more liquid it gets, the more competitive it is. And I've found with international rugby, it doesn't actually seem to be that way. And that suggests to me that it's probably influenced by square money, you know, people that just bet on their national team because they love it, and they pile in at certain times. You know, Six Nations, everyone jumps in. Yeah, I'm going to bet on, you know, whoever, you know, England, and that influences the market, you know, more than the quote unquote sharps.
Yeah, and the power of the currency as well. I always find when England are playing, you know, the mighty pound. Yes, South Africa might be getting a lot of that kind of money on it as well, but it's just not the same sort of volume of money as might be coming for
a lot of rich stockbrokers working in the city that would love a big bet on England.
Excellent. Well, let's bring you in now on this game. Nathan, Benetton -9.5. I see Farid is saying Benetton big win. Gav reckons they can beat the cap, but expects Benetton to win as well. What are your views on this one?
I'm going to wait and see till the lineups come out. Like at the moment, I'm kind of right on this number, like, you know, right there. Like, so, but I suspect when it comes out, it'll probably be a lean to Benetton. I watched both of these games last week actually, and Benetton impressed me. Like, I thought they were pretty good against Glasgow, who's a team that I rate. And then the Lions Zebra game was not good watching, to be 100% honest with you.
It was a crap game.
So I suspect that if I was going to go somewhere, it would be to Benetton, but I will see what happens when the lineups come out.
Right, let's bring you in for the next game then. This game, Ospreys at -15.5 against Zebra. Zebra, I think it's been discussed on the show, developing into quite a strong home team, but they do tend to still struggle on the road. This cap, I think, has been fairly solid as well during the week, Mossman.
Yeah, the takeaway for me from the Ospreys, Stormers Ospreys game was I actually thought Ospreys were pretty good, and I kind of came away thinking that they'll give a lot of teams a decent nudge this year. So I'm kind of right there on this number as things stand. So we'll see what happens when the lineups come out. But I feel quite positively towards Ospreys based on what I saw last week.
Right, and Mossman making an important point here. Obviously, Friday's games, we got the team news. We unfortunately don't have all of the teams for Saturday. I know, like the Sharks, for example, were out with their side. But before we move on to that Sharks game, let's get Oracle's comment on this one. Oracle, 15.5.
Wrong favourite.
An awkward silence follows.
No, they got the wrong favourite here, Brent. I'm sorry. I may not have hit my unmute button fast enough, but I've been very impressed with the Zebra team. I think Ospreys were quite lucky in their South African game, or early on in their season, for lack of a better word, the last couple of weeks. But I like Zebra here. And, I've been waiting for this for a while. I've been, honestly, watching this tournament for, 6 years, 7 years, for the Italians to start doing something. And I know they're chucking a couple of internationals into their team. But, I punted the Zebra team last week well enough, made money. They beat the Lions, got the money. And that's, you might look like you dumbfounded with your glasses on and your lips sealed. But the reality is I don't punt against the Lions very often, Brent. And I got them right. And when I get them right, I'm quite excited. And last week I did. It paid for breakfast, it paid for lunch, paid for the bra, paid for the beers, paid for all of that. I'm very happy. And I'm going to say, I was actually talking to a mate this week and saying, I wonder what they come out with a Zebra this week. Is it 6? Is it 4? Is it 3? And 6, when I said 6, I'm thinking like, that's crazy. And I'm getting 15. I'm going to tell you, this is a try too much plus some. The Brave will punt the Zebra to win the game at, I don't know, 6-1, 5-1.
Yeah, almost 7-1 at BetX.
Yeah, it's a big number. Plus 15. But I can tell you, you can take a decent strike at plus 7.5, which is 8 off this. But it's also crucially, and I was chatting to, I forget his name. It was on the show last week. Don't take plus 6, take plus 7. Don't take -7, take -6. That 7 number is very important in rugby. And he lost on an NFL game. NFL and rugby are very similar. 7-point scores. If you can get plus 7, take it. If you're going for the plus, that is. If you're going for the minus, don't take 7, take -6. In this case, plus 7.5, take plus 7.5 if you can get it, or plus 8.5. Don't take plus 6, and you'll clean up. I like Zebra. This is the year Zebra does better than they've done before. Excuse me. I like them. And I'm all over them here. Zebra plus, and a little bit on the board. But when I say a little bit, 20%. That's all.
A little bit on the board for Gavi. I must say, yeah, I was a bit surprised. I thought this handicap would be a bit less, but I actually quite like Ospreys, and even against the Stormers, I was quite impressed with Ospreys. I thought they actually played it. I mean, Stormers just outplayed them in the end, but there were parts I quite liked about them. But Gav, I want to move on to the next game. It's a big handicap, this one. Obviously, I haven't seen if Leinster have announced a team, but obviously the thinking is that the Irish internationals are back. But the Sharks have named a pretty decent looking side. They were very disappointing last week. Was it last week against the Dragons? That was also another terrible game to watch. We've got a huge handicap here, Gavin, 26.5.
Brent, this is not huge. This is huge times 8. I mean, you got I have to laugh here. You got the Sharks with, I don't know, a sprinkle of Springboks, like a sprinkle. I don't know. I haven't seen the team. But 26.5 is just ridiculous. This Leinster team has gone to Cape Town and Pretoria and got thumped. I don't care what happened in Pretoria. They got thumped. They got beaten twice. And I don't even know what they sent here. But you come to South Africa with this arrogance, you're going to win maybe one game. You won't be beaten by a bonus point. They got thumped. And I don't even know I know Keo and I know SA Rugby. When I say SA Rugby, I don't know, that dude here in Cape Town. There's a couple of these websites that will cover the rugby. I don't know what those versions are in Ireland, where I can read the man on the street proper, like, what are you doing kind of attitude. Like, I'm not talking about News of the World and the Star and Cape Times. I'm talking about proper rugby journalism that says, hang on a second, you brought a half a team to Cape Town. You thought you were going to win. I haven't found that news outlet yet. I don't know, Mossman, if that exists in New Zealand, but Leinster comes to Cape Town and Pretoria with half a team. Sprinkle of Irish internationals and Six Nation winners, and it doesn't matter. They lost both games. Now they're going back and they're playing a reasonably decent Sharks team. I'm not going to say the best Sharks team because it isn't, but it's reasonably good. And you're giving them a 4 tries, less 1 conversion. I'm sorry. To cut it short, I know.
It's too late, Gab. It's too late to cut it short.
I'm on the plus here, and I'm on the plus by double units. I'm sorry. 4 tries, less a conversion is too much for me.
So
I'm on Sharks plus all the way.
I'm going to say that for me, the handicap does look a little bit hard. Nowhere near as confident as Gav there. I just think it is high, even though the internationals will be back for Leinster. Someone mentioned, I think it might have been Fareed, or no, it was Dino, said they don't often put teams away, Leinster. And I've actually, I reckon if I had even though I'm wearing a Leinster shirt, if I had that same table as you in front, I would see Leinster for me probably sitting at +9 or -9, should I say, because I just don't tend to catch them well. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a big number, especially kind of early in the season where teams are still trying. There was it's interesting in the comments. There were a lot of like kind of intangibles, which I think probably have some truth to them. That maybe with international games around the corner, some of these guys, they're going to come and they haven't played much, so they're probably a little bit undercooked, and then they've got big games to come, so they're probably maybe going to get pulled a little bit early anyway. So there's kind of a lot of factors here, and these big caps in games like this, these are real banana skins. Like, there are spots where they're obvious that a big cap is okay, and I think at the end of last season there was a game where Leinster had a big cap like this against Zebre, and that was very different. Like, you just knew that, like, Leinster, I think they'd been knocked out of Europe, and you just knew that was a big bounce back spot for them. And I think they won by 70 or something. But
and Zebre, like you said, at that stage of the season, had nothing to play for.
Yeah, they'd kind of quit on the season. Yeah. I think Leinster were a bit angry, and and you saw when they rolled out a full strength team at that point in the season, that they needed like kind of a bounce back. This feels very different. Like, it's almost the opposite, where they're still in that mode where they're probably keeping some powder dry. They're really not incentivized to run up a big score. this is the kind of thing, you'll sit there and maybe the Sharks score the first try and you'll be thinking, gee, I'm cooked here.
Yes, exactly.
It can be something as simple as that, and the chances of a team backdooring a cover, with a cap that big, are just seem really high. So I'm interested to see. I'm really hoping the Sharks can pull a few guys back in and just to even that ledger. And I'd fancy them here as well.
Well, let's stick with you for the next game. Glasgow up against the Dragons. We've got another big handicap here. Glasgow, of course, beaten by Benetton last week. They did beat the Sharks in week 1. Minus 23.5. This line, from what I can see, has been quite stable.
Yeah, gosh, again, this is kind of the opposite where, I'm kind of leaning towards Glasgow here. Which kind of flies in the face a little bit of what I've just said, but Glasgow are different from Leinster in the way that they kind of approach these competitions. So I think they will be, by contrast, will probably be disappointed with last week. I think they would have felt like they had a good enough team to beat Benetton and then didn't. So they could be kind of out for a bit of revenge here. Again, quite line-up dependent, but force bet, I'd take Glasgow. Whether I actually will or not, I don't know, just because it's, again, all the things I said about the kind of the banana skin, they to some extent, not the same extent, but they do kind of apply here.
Yeah, I'm very much in agreement with you. Certainly like to see lineups and also probably points lines for me on this one. Oracle, anything for you on this game? Got the wrong favorite, perhaps?
No, I had to start laughing, Brent, because this Dragons team, I've been against them for, 5 years. It's not even 5 months. This is 5 years stuff. I've been against this team so much because they've been so crap. And I actually don't know what to do here. I'm stunned. This is a team that Zebra beat. I'm gonna tell you straight off the bat here. I'm like a 2-unit Dragons plus punter at 23.5 or no bet. Do not take the minus here. If you're not prepared to back the Dragons, put your wallet back in your pocket and do not have a bet. This is plus Dragons, half a bet or no bet. Out.
Fareed's in agreement with you. I actually would view it the other way. I'm kind of like, you either back the minus or you take a no bet. I can't imagine backing the Dragons plus, but fair enough. I mean, I think the cap, that's probably why the cap hasn't moved. There's people prepared to argue both sides of the coin on that one. We're into the home stretch now. Cardiff, we'll get to Mossman on this one. Let's stick with Oracle, but Cardiff, a team that Mossman tends to avoid. They're minus 4.5 against Connacht. Connacht, of course, also having a game postponed last week. Quite close to where I put the handicap. This one I actually went 2.5. I thought it would be a slightly closer cap. Gav, what do you got for us?
I have absolutely nothing.
Well, Gavin's not going to get that one wrong, and we'll go up to Mossman. Mossman, you weren't expecting such a quick retort back to you.
Of course he was.
Yeah, I'm not going to get this one wrong either, because I won't.
We've got no opinion on this.
Cardiff's my bogey team, and plus I'm looking at a number that's right on this as well. So it's there's a lot of factors in here that would keep me the hell away from it.
Well, none of the three of us have got a firm view, so let's defer here to the live chat. Fareed says, "Let's go Connacht, wrong favourite," and Oracle will give a nod, not necessarily because he agrees it's the wrong favourite, just because that is a saying that we hear from him on a fairly regular basis. Right, last game, guys. There has been some money for this one. I'm going to let Mossman kick us off. Ulster, I actually capped this game. I got this cap totally wrong, so we'll talk about that in a sec. But there was plus 3.5 Ulster early, and money for the Bulls. They're now minus 5.5, Mossman.
Yeah, I know there was a squad announcement, so not a team announcement, but they did talk about the squad that they're taking over to Europe. I didn't have a close look at it. I don't know if you guys did.
I didn't have a close look. I know that they've got a few of their box. I think Pollard's going to, potentially be there. But like you say, that doesn't necessarily mean he gets rolled out in the opening game. But they are. Right. I think it was a stronger squad than perhaps was expected. I know the Admiral. Last time I said something the Admiral backed, and he hadn't actually backed it when I had him on the show. But I think if I'm not mistaken, he got on the -3.5 Bulls there when he saw the squad.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Ulster are a little bit in one of my red teams, like in the sense that when I back them, I tend to be wrong. They're not like red, they're not like Cardiff red, but they're kind of up there. That'd be the thing that would keep me off this, because other than that, I quite like a home underdog, somebody who's catching points at home, and so it would be partly lineup dependent. I do have that question mark around Ulster, but in general, I quite like a home plus. So Ulster would probably be the way I would lean, but whether or not I actually get involved, I think is highly debatable at this point.
So I actually thought Ulster would, as I said, I got the cap wrong. I'll put my hand up on that one. I actually thought Ulster would start favourite here. So I'm going to almost say something that Mossman, that you're well known for, to say I don't mind if the money keeps coming for the Bulls here. Give me potentially a bigger plus on Ulster. I've never seen the Bulls as great travellers. Yes, obviously some strong players coming in, but even last week, let's face it, that Bulls team last week, late intercept try got them the handicap against Leinster. They won by sort of 8, I think. I mean, there were times there where it looked like an understrength Leinster side would beat them. I'm not convinced by this Bulls side, and I'm actually, this is one I'm looking at, Ulster, and possibly even a board bet on Ulster as well. And that should lead us nicely into Oracle wrapping up the URC.
Nicely into me. All right. Okay, so I just want to go through a couple of things here. Hold on. Yeah. The Bulls haven't won this game over there. And they're minus. And as much as I'm chuckling, I think it's just the year they win this. And they win this by more than 5. It's not a lot of value. So the guy's looking out for value. 9 to 10 about -5.5. No value. Maybe you want to watch a bit of the game and see how they start. But I'm going to tell you, Bulls are in this game comfortably. It's a great start for them. It's a good year for them. It's against the runner play. This is like Gold's just hit 4,000. And Brent, you remember a year and a half ago or a year ago, I was telling you it's going to hit 3,000 and for 5,000, whatever. Gold's just hit 4,000. I'm cleaning up. Just so you know, I'm absolutely cleaning up. And now I'm on Bulls -5. And it's got nothing to do with Gold, but I'm on Bulls -5 here.
You need the
okay.
You need the gold. You need to have a handicap gold and assets show. Then apparently, you come on.
Gold's gonna hit 10,000. I'll get you a minus soon, and I'll get you a calendar so we can have a small little like March to August kind of thing. But I will get a bit of a handicap there, and I'll make some alternative handicaps. I'll price it all up. But Gold's going to 10,000. The world's FKD. It's all over.
You can actually
the Gold's going to numbers I've never seen before.
Okay. Well, if you want to get at that, then the way to do it, I reckon, is through these prediction markets that they have now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but they're really big in the States now. Kalshi, Polymarket, these kind of guys. Like, so you basically, you can bet on these prediction markets, like on kind of anything, and price of gold, the value of the Dow, and all of this kind of stuff. So it means you don't actually have to physically have the asset, but you are invested in it.
Anyone got the assets? I don't think anyone's got gold in South Africa. We know it exists. We're all punting on paper, and we're happy.
I've got no doubt that Oracle's happy. He sounds happy. Right, let's move into the best bets. Now, an Oracle, let me give you first crack to your best plays of the weekend, please.
Stormers
against Scarlets.
Stormers ones, all the way.
All the way.
That'll set up your weekend.
Mossman, what are your best plays maybe across the tournaments? Oh,
yeah.
Mossman, if you like anything I haven't brought up the Premiership and that, but if you fancy anything anywhere else, you throw it in.
I haven't.
He doesn't.
I will be I will be involved in the Prem for sure. That's like a kind of a target competition for me. I just haven't looked at what's out there this morning, which I need to do. But yeah, in terms of URC, like I do agree on the Stormers. I think I can easily see myself being involved in the Sharks game. There's a couple of others that I think kind of waiting on team news, and then in the NPC, and I always feel slightly bad about kind of giving out a number where I've taken something which was far better, but I actually do think that that the Bay of Plenty could really do a number on Tasman. So even at 7.5, which is where it is, which seems like a big number, I'm projecting something bigger than that. So I think there's still value there as well.
100%. I'm just looking for Reed saying Taranaki, Stormers, Sharks, and Benetton. And Jan Esterhuizen, well, you'll probably have to look below the YouTube video. He obviously hasn't watched the show live, so hasn't got his treble on here. Blake is saying Bath is going to pump Gloucester. Plenty of injuries for Gloucester. I'm just looking at that handicap. That's minus 18.5 there at the moment on Bet Exchange. Gents, that brings us to the end of the show. Great chatting rugby with you as always. And Mossman, have a great weekend, man. Enjoy the NPC. And we'll see you next week, no doubt.
Thanks.
Excellent. And thanks to the Oracle. Oracle, what's the rest of the night hold in store for you? Off to bed, or are you going to watch a bit of TV?
No. I enjoyed that cricket. I might watch a bit of the highlights. That was good. I don't know. Good week. Great business. Loving it. Loving life. Had a great curry earlier. Just the world's good. Mossman in the house.
We're getting very close to oversharing.
Shane wants to be on the show next week. I'm happy.
You thought we were about to wrap up, Brent, didn't you? No, you've got another half an hour to go.
When
he did. He was all over.
Anyways, gents, thanks very much. We'll see you next week. And thanks to the guys in the live chat. We had great interaction tonight as well. We'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.